not streaming, not supplements, going all in with Gymshark. And it's not like I think that was anything too surprising, right? But it's no, this has been quite a while into the making. You know, even though it's only dropped as like a couple day teaser beforehand, right? There was a lot more behind the scenes than you might have expected, and that's kind of the way it is with everything, you know. I mean, there's the cool show-offy part at the end, and there's all the setup that kind of goes, unnoticed in a way, and that's the more important part, right? I feel it's measure twice, cut once, if you kind of catch my drift. But no, that was sweet getting to go see Chris's gym, and I've seen Chris. I mean, Arnold's, Olympia's. I mean, those are really it. But that's a couple times that we've gotten to kind of go back and forth, have a little bit of a chat, especially after I finished competing at the Arnold Amateur. And then we get to kind of talk around. No, so we already got a little bit of introductions beforehand. But David, I've never seen David Late before, right? I felt like I'm, in Avatar, when, I forget, what's the guy's name? Well, whatever. They transfer into the mind of this 7-foot kind of... I felt like I was standing with something like that with David. But no, and then I will say this. By the 11th magic trick, it had started to lose its charm just a little, but it did not lose its mystique, especially that last one. He was, and then it was the same thing. He was telling me all sorts of, he's got background kind of groups where they sort of go in and, actually kind of learn everything else and actually like sort of share different sort of tricks, because you don't want to, like, you're not just going to rip somebody's thing off if you're not going to give them credit or anything like that. Like, just a whole behind the scenes I never would have expected. But no, that was freaking nuts. And I feel like every time, I mean, even just getting to talk to these guys, like in just like a week and a half when we go to Anaheim for the Fit Expo, that's when I'm gonna be camping out at my booth. But every time I get to see all these guys who, I mean, it's not like it's probably a little bit different for the dudes who live in, like, where they all move to LA and they're kind of around each other all the time. Like, I would think it might lose some of its, kind of hype, maybe to a degree. But, it's actually run into these guys who are so much further ahead than you in some way or another. For me, that just makes me more motivated, right? That gets me amped up. Every time I've ever left an Arnold or an Olympia or, anything, and I get to see that show-offy point, the pinnacle of what these guys are working on, that, I mean, I said it every time that that I think when we finished working out with Urs down in Vegas, and I was driving back and ready to leave, the Olympia was over by then, and it's, those kind of pinnacles, those moments end up just driving more motivation across the board of the community of working out. And then things go quiet for a little bit, right? And then everybody kind of goes back to where they belong. They get back on it, they start clocking in more hours and more calorie tracking and just harder sets and everything else that goes along with it, to try and recreate that hype and that just excitement that, getting to see any kind of performance or, just like appearance or congregations of lifters like that. And it's something I never would have expected before, because before I ever came to an Arnold or, anything else like that, I looked at the working out and it was so individual and it was so just, this is my thing. That's the end of it. Like, I'll get hyped up by seeing what other guys are doing, but at the end of the day, it's still kind of my own responsibility to get after if I want anything out of it, but to actually get a little bit more of a, I don't even want to say peek, but complete look at the behind the scenes of everything, and just like get a better understanding of the scale at which some of these things get to move around. I mean, it just makes me that more amped to try to like elevate everything that I'm trying to do, however many levels that I can, but that's, so that'll be the plan going forward. Not the most game-breaking change, right? I mean, it's still going to be, lift and everything else, just like we are, but I think it's a step in a certain kind of direction for me. But plan for today with back, I'll have to see. I feel like I've been doing kind of mixed back days, I'm talking rows, pull downs, pullovers, at least on like an average of weeks, in a very balanced kind of way, like the same amount of rows as pull downs and pullovers and everything else. But I think going into the end of this off season, I'm going to prioritize a lot more lat work. So I'm talking, I kind of want to add to, I mean, relative to how my back looks, right? I don't think I need to be thicker per se. Like that, we're always talking thickness and width when it comes to your back. So, you know, the logic is like mid traps, kind of like upper lats. That's a little bit more thickness. And for me, what I think I'm missing is really being able to open up and spread my lats out. So that's where I think a little bit more lat focus work, at least for these next few weeks, is going to do me good. But I know that this gym is not going to be busy. I can actually guarantee it 100%. So I think nothing else to discuss. Let's just get in there and start freaking sweating. This is my version of looking at the way I've been doing shit and just tweaking it a little. Usually I think of this as a finisher movement. So, I mean, this is kind of similar to if you do it single arm with a D handle, you know, kind of just, the point of the bench being inclined isn't even as much that it's like a specific angle. It just kind of keeps your legs from sliding forward. So I can lean in for like a good lat stretching, like pull down kind of action, and then also lean back into more of like, you know, kind of a row-ish squeeze, but not like an upward squeezing row that's more trap, more kind of lower lat, if you will, right? But you know, usually I save this for the end because in my mind I'm like, okay, awesome lat stretch and squeeze into a little bit of mid-back row, which I know I was just saying, you know, I want to do a little bit more lat today. But I think the fact that I always finish with this, I'm closing myself off to new ideas if I don't try starting with it, you know? And if I think it sucks, I'll just move on to a pull down, right? But let's get started. And this will be very squeeze emphasized. Okay, a few more. Okay. Honestly, shit, 2 more of these, and then I'll move on to, you know, something a little different. Okay. Oh, shit, one more. Yeah, one more. And then I think pull downs are calling my name, but I'll decide that after this set. I think there's a pretty serious value in having a good workout planned, right? You know the movements you like, you know, maybe you love doing rows immediately after pull downs. That's your shit. That's your version of a formula, right? And you like it. But I've been putting a lot more emphasis, and I'm saying like over the course of time, onto more so like kind of judging on a set-by-set basis how the lift should go. If this felt, well, it does feel pretty good, but I only want to do the 4. But if I wanted to just sit here and do an 8-setter of just these rows, I could leave totally happy about it. I hit my lats in a way that I really liked, totally fine. I wouldn't only do this movement forever, but for a lift, shit man, sometimes simpler the better. But yeah, one more, and then I think we'll move on to something else I think will be even better. Let's move on. So those pull downs were heavy enough, or I guess that kind of like seated pull down row combo. And I don't really want to do heavy pull downs right now. I like nasty heavy pull downs as like a starter when I'm fresh and really kind of like set the tone for the lift. But I mean, I've already done 4 good working lat focused sets. I don't think I'm going to get so much out of just moving a shit ton of weight around instead of really working with a manageable amount, you know. So with 200, I can get a really good squeeze hold, slow release, 12, 15 reps or so, solid. But I want to change it up a touch and add a little bit to it instead. And I'm trying to think of what kind of superset I wanted to add, like a pullover, like a something or other. But I think this row will be perfect. So not failure here, like 10-ish reps, you know, like as a good pre-exhaust, a little bit of upper back, but still kind of lat focused, because there's no row that involves no lats, because what's a pull down, right? Here, and what's a row? You know, it's very similar. You're always getting this sort of rotating lat action. But 4 plates here as a pre-exhaust, then moving on to a finisher squeezing set of pull downs, that'll be a good combo. And you know, do as many as I feel will be good. Oh my gosh. All right. Yeah. 2. Yeah, okay. Oh shit. Whew. Okay, definitely doing one more after that. Whether or not I do 2 more, to be seen. Okay. All right. Holy shit. Oh, okay, one more of those. Oh my goodness. Okay. Oh man. Okay. I think one more set of something will be it. I can freaking pose down, see how we're looking. Let's finish this one just how it started. Okay. Okay. That's enough. Let's freaking post down. Alright, that was a good one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, good man. 8 total working sets. Plus mainly just lat focused. That's about freaking right. But let's see how we're looking lat spread through the shirt kind of style. Very nice. The one benefit of either busting out just like a tripod with your phone, or if you ever get curious about, like, I mean, shit, like, look, it's cool enough being able to take pictures all the time on your phone, and they're like a pretty decent quality. But as soon as you bust out like a big ass lens and start looking at what those are like, it's gonna be hard to go back, you know. And even just on like more of a personal kind of level, like I wish I had more like just kind of training, what would the word be, archives in like high ass camera quality. So that's one switch I do not regret, swapping from just regular phone to, you know, big ass freaking Sony lens or Canon, you know, whichever one you like. But that's kind of, yeah, shit. No, this is, yeah, we're getting somewhere. This is kind of the first time that just standing, like you see those kind of triangle-y looking things like right up here, sort of separating my lats and like my mid, back, and lower. Either way, that's just freaking cool for me. But let's run through a couple. Oh man, I'm no posing coach, but I will say this, with this kind of like, you know, Arnoldy looking pose, I see a lot of, well, let me tell you this, and this is, you know, Sam's take, I'm not a coach, whatever. Right leg in front, left leg, or left arm down, right? So if your right arm is all the way up here, your right leg will be in front, right? This is a little funkier. I see this a lot, and I see a lot of this. Like I'm seeing left leg in front, which should be swapped, and I'm just seeing like a double bi turned around. You know, we're not aiming for like this crooked. It's almost like you're trying to show your back off from the top down. So I'm not thinking, you know, turn over here. I'm thinking almost like turn sideways and kind of reveal like that, you know. But obviously, you know what looks best for your build. But even relatively deep in off season, not crazy soft or anything, still feeling pretty grainy. Very good for me. But lift complete. Good back day. Hundreds, maybe thousands of back days to come. Actually, not maybe, definitely, but let's roll. That was a good lift. And I am getting very excited about what, well, I mean, I'm not going to look years or like you know, levels upon levels crazier this next dieting phase than I did in the last one, but I know it will be a noticeable percentage change after this off season. And this is like maybe it's just because, actually no, not maybe, it's definitely because I've never taken myself to that level of leanness before to really see all of that grain and, you know, cuts and everything else. Like I haven't been exposed to it before. So now that I have, now that I've kind of gotten a taste for it, it's well, it's making me itching for it again, you know. But that's kind of in a like two-phase motivation, making me extra excited about bringing it during these off-season lifts, because I know that is what I've got to do first in order to kind of reach that larger and leaner state. You know what I'm saying? Before somebody can, you know, start chipping away and sculpting a block of marble, you got to move it from wherever the hell they mined it to, you know, where it's going to be actually slowly kind of worked on and revealed, right? And that's the off season. You know, sometimes not as flashy. Actually, not sometimes. Unless you're lifting crazy weights, like to the point where the amount of weights you're lifting is kind of crazy, then that part is a little flashy. But, you know, the actual just being softer, you are bigger, like enclosed for sure. But, you know, actual kind of posing wise, you know, I'm starting to lean more lean, you know. Now that's don't take that as though I'm saying bulks are not worth it, just stay lean, because this is coming from my perspective of, you know, years upon years of kind of off seasons to get to a point that I'm kind of satisfied with, right? If you get what I'm kind of saying, you know. So it's not lean is cool, but it's not exactly my first priority, right? It's you know, I made this analogy a while ago. I really like it. I ended up just thinking like the same thing. You know, if you got a project car, the paint goes on last, right? The detail work goes on last. You know, first you got to kind of build everything up from the bottom first, and then get to show it off later. You know, and that just adds to that kind of behind the scenes, you know, quiet. It's just you working on something before you end up really having anything to show off at all. And, you know, is that the point to be able to show it off? You know, that's kind of another thing to, you know, sort of think about. Because I don't think it would be like if my only motivation for working out was because I was going to post it and get a certain amount of views on it, like that would suck. I don't even like the idea of that. You know, for me at least, I'm pretty comfortable. And it took a while to get here. I mean, I said this yesterday with, yesterday, but I was saying that with we were talking about that with Chris and David, where it's like, you know, does the camera help? And then right now we're definitely in a peak of, you know, kind of self-recording and documenting and, you know, just showing off everything working out wise. And I do not see a problem with that inherently, apart from like when guys are doing corny shit in like a normal, totally like regular gym and like making a fuss. You know, that's where Joey Swole comes in and keeps everybody in line. But like just more at like a basic level, it's something to think about, you know, because I don't ever want to feel like I'm distracted from the workouts or any of my values are shifting because of the fact that I'm, you know, showing all this stuff off. I like to think about it as just these workouts are happening, and I get to bring you guys along with me. You know, but plan now. Go get some food in my system. Shit, get ready for bed. Actually, that's not true. I've probably got maybe two big meals after this sort of post-workout meal, and then I'll be able to, you know, actually tucker myself in. And, or no, tuck myself in and have some sweet ass dreams. But plan for tomorrow with arms. Exact detail wise, I could not tell you, but big picture, I can guarantee I'm going to be pumped, and at least hoping that I'll get to leave the gym feeling good. You know, it's never guaranteed, and it's never you know, I can't exactly predict the future, but I can definitely say that with anything that's in my direct control, I'm going to do my best to make sure I keep up my momentum and aim for the things that I want to reach. But I think nothing else to say. I'll see you for arms tomorrow.